Good evening. I'm just outside St Albans Council offices. I've been a little bit fluey the last 2 days. I had a throbbing head yesterday and I've been quite drained today. So I took it really easy, but I really wanted to go to the council meeting tonight because there's quite a big group of us that have been following what's been going on in Thetford and in Essex and in Glastonbury, Colchester, and various towns throughout the UK whereby they have managed to get the 20-minute neighbourhoods, or they've informed their mayors and their councils about the government's plans for 20-minute neighbourhoods, because there's a whole load of towns and cities in the UK that are down to have these controlled neighbourhoods and put into zones and what have you. And so we planned to go to a meeting last Thursday, and there were a lot of leaflets put out around St Albans, that were distributed around St Albans, and at the last minute the council decided to postpone the meeting, and which a lot of people turned up last week. There was a lot of people really wanting to know why the meeting was postponed on these 20-minute neighbourhoods. So a whole load of us went to the meeting tonight, and it was about something and climate change. It was very clear that there was going to be some climate change. They're talking about climate change. And 3 people from who are local residents that I know of sent in questions, and I was really clear about how they would contact the council to get information about how to send in a question, because you have to go through a certain procedure. And we were told we could have 3 people asking questions, and 3 people spent some time just really thinking of some really genuine questions that we wanted to ask about climate change to our council, to our councillors. And so we got there tonight, and while we were waiting to go in to the meeting, a lady came out and she said, right, we need to have all of your names, and she said, and we need to know that those of you who are asking questions. And one of the guys said, well, my question was turned down because there were too many points in it, it wasn't clear enough. But the other 2 people that had asked questions were told that they were not on the list, which was really bizarre because they'd sent it to the same email address as the guy whose question was rejected, but they weren't on the list for questions. So when we all went into this council meeting, which was terribly pompy, incredibly pompous, and the councillor was really not speaking from his heart at all. And I say that because I'm not used to going to council meetings. And when people, I read energy very clearly, and when people want to their nose right this very quickly, it was very, very heady and very difficult to follow. There was nothing said, of course, in layman's terms whatsoever. But one thing that he did say right at the beginning, was that there was a bunch of conspiracy theorists giving out a leaflet, and we want to assure those people that you will not be locked in your homes, and that St Albans is not down for 20-minute neighbourhoods or 15-minute cities. Is anyone with me? And I just went, hooray, hooray! And apparently, I didn't hear it, but apparently this guy, this councillor who was leading the meeting, said, so you can leave now, which was pretty rude. Anyway, the meeting went ahead, and what he did was he asked about 4 people to come and ask questions. Quite a few, 2 of them weren't even there. And the 2 other people who we didn't know just asked questions that didn't seem to be anything about climate change at all. And then the meeting went completely onto something else. There was nothing said whatsoever about climate change. So right at the end, when he said, right, 2 more councillors have an opportunity to speak now, And so I just called out from the sort of viewing place where we were sitting. I just said, can we ask some questions? And he said, no, you can't. And I said, but we were told that we could ask questions, and we were told specifically that we were going to be talking about climate change. And he was so rude. He was so rude. This man was unbelievably rude. And he said, well, we're not talking about climate change. We weren't going to talk about climate change, so you can go. You can leave now, or something like this. No, he didn't say you can leave now. That was the first time. I said, he said, we're not talking about climate change. And I can't remember what else he said. Someone else will remember what he said. And I was so shocked with his response after I had been given complete instructions of how to send in questions, which people did, and that they weren't going to be talking about climate change, and the arrogance and the ignorance and the hostility towards us, which was clearly already planned from the beginning, was just unbelievable. And I know I walked out at that point, and then quite a lot of people walked out as well. I mean, it was just horrible. You know, I was going to stand up and say, look, I've lived in this town over 60 years. I used to teach Pilates in this very room every week, 25, 30 years ago. You know, I'm a resident of this town, and we were taught like pieces of filth, quite frankly. It was shocking, absolutely disgusting. I know people have already said they're going to write in complaints. And we won't be leaving it there. We're not here to cause trouble. We just want to ask genuine questions about climate change in our town. That's all we want to do. You know, there was a policeman apparently standing outside the door, and one of the things he said at the beginning was that they'd heard that, oh no, it was the girl outside, or he said it, that they'd heard we were there to protest. You know, the irony is when he sort of made this very condescending comment about the fact that you will not be locked up in your homes. This leaflet's gone out suggesting you're going to be locked up in your homes. Well, you're not going to be. I mean, you know, we were locked up in our homes 2 years ago. We were stopped from talking to people in the park. We did have our park benches taped up to prevent us if we needed to sit down. We were only allowed out if we were going out for 10 minutes worth of exercise. What we've been through, we all said was going to happen 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. We were called conspiracy theorists. People are still using that term. We're just asking to be heard. We're asking to be listened to, the same way that the people of Colchester, the people of Glastonbury, the people of Thetford and all the other towns who have had their councils now listen to them, and, you know, for what a promise is worth by any council, that they're not going to participate in this. The truth is that I have heard that what they have said, some of these councils have been told that higher up the governments are saying to them that if they do as they're told, they will be funded, because the local governments, the local councils, have no money. They're in debt, and they will be paid. They will be given money if they do as they're told. So very disappointing. There was a lot of people that really wanted to ask genuine questions tonight, and we were basically spat in the face at, actually, and I shall be making a formal complaint myself. So very sad, you know, but that's the world today, isn't it? So I'm going to go back to bed now. I'm not feeling 100%, but yeah, that's what happened tonight. Big love.